1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All right.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the 93rd edition of Star Wars Reactions. We're here. We're going to have a great time tonight. We are doing our second episode on the Andor series, and we got a lot to talk about. We are going to have a blast. So let's not waste any time. My name is Aaron Harrison. Joining me, he is the Anakin to my Rex, the David Motters. David, what's up, brother?
Oh man, a lot of Star Wars stuff. More Star Wars stuff coming next week with the Tales of the Jedi dropping. But I am ready to react to this Aldhani Arc that you and I are calling it, and ready to react, ready to talk with you, and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Did I say my name?
You did.
I did? Okay, I wasn't sure. I was sitting there, I introduced you, and I'm like, wait, did I even introduce myself? Carabast. Starting to show. We're starting to show off good, folks. I tell you, man. Carabast moments on stuff I can't even remember. I'm starting to show my age. Anywho. Oh, Lord. That's as David said, we are discussing in this episode the Andor, what we call the Aldhani Arc. It's actually looking at episodes 4, 5, and 6 of the Andor series. The episode 4 entitled Aldhani, episode 5 The Axe Forgets, and episode 6 The Eye. No, it's not the Eye of Sauron perched up in Mordor. It's wrong series, y'all. That's Lord of the Rings. We're talking Andor. Anywho, we are looking at those episodes. All 3 episodes were directed by Susanna White, and all 3 episodes were written by Dan Gilroy. And in this arc, we see Cassian Andor, who is going by codename Clem, introduced to other rebels on the planet Aldhani. After, of course, escaping Phoenix with Luthen Rael. He joins their team and finds out that their goal is to steal the entire quarterly payroll from the Imperial sector. Clem, aka Cassian, joins rebels Vel, Tamarin, Skeen, Sita, and Nemik. The first 2 episodes of this arc, Aldhani and the Axe Forgets, shows how the team forges an uneasy alliance with their new member, Clem, as he's shown up and thrust into their plans just days before execution. And the 3rd episode shows the actual heist of the quarterly payroll. Cassian, Vel, and Skeen, Nemik, make it to Dr. Quadpaw after the heist is over, only to see that Cassian and Vel and Cinta, who is still on Aldhani, all are the only 3 to have survived. Cassian ends up at the end with Nemik's manifesto, which he was writing about the rebellion, reluctantly. He really didn't want it, but it was thrust upon him. And that's where we end. So let's kick off our show like we always do with our initial reactions. David, my brother, tell me your initial reactions to this arc.
Oh man, it was really good to see, familiar characters. We get to see Mon Mothma now. The first 3 we didn't. But also we get to see familiar places like Coruscant, and it was unbelievable how they made that look. These creators, all of you listening heard Aaron mentioned Dan Gilroy, Tony Gilroy's brother. And so these guys, these creators, they've been slowly bringing us further and further into the time of the Empire. I'm loving it. I do have to say that, one quibble I've had with the kind of the Star Wars Disney Plus series is that they've been more character based and less action based compared to the Star Wars movies. Again, I know it's money based. I get it. But I'm telling you, in Andor, I really am enjoying the character development of Andor. Again, it's slow. We got obviously 2 seasons, 24 episodes to watch it play out. But getting to learn more about Luthen, I'm liking that. And even, getting more backstory here on Mon Mothma and the rebellion. And so it's really neat to see where she is at this point in time before, we see her in Rebels and even, Rogue One. So just an incredible arc. And that 6th episode was just great and had me on the edge of my seat. Just so far so good, man. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. How about you?
Oh, I tell you, I loved this arc. And I'm glad you said that about the series that Disney has been focusing and Lucasfilm has been focused on, because they have been very character driven, and a lot of people haven't enjoyed that. I've actually loved it because I've loved to see the depths of the characters and see how they grow. It's pretty intense, and to see these characters that we looked at as heroes, struggle and deal with the everyday life that people would have to deal with if they were going through the same situations. And it just has been a lot of fun for me. And Andor, these 3 episodes, Aldhani, The Axe Forgets, and The Eye, man, were just as good. The struggle of Cassian trying to fit in with this team and understand the struggles and clash with different members of the team. And then, of course, the actual heist itself in that finale episode in episode 6, the Eye, absolutely incredible. I loved everything about there was nothing more perfect than that episode so far in this series. It was exciting. It had all the feels of Ocean's 11 going on there, a little bit of the Italian Job going on in there. It just felt fun. It was great. And then the effects and the graphics throughout that episode, especially at the end when the eye actually came, the Eye of Aldhani, was just perfect. Absolutely gorgeous. So I thoroughly enjoyed this arc, and even going back and rewatching it to prepare for the show, reinforces how much I'm enjoying this series, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Wow, I just went all McDonald's on us. Is it sad I want a quarter pounder now?
Focus. Carabast. Focus.
Squirrel. Oh, Lord. See, this type of fun we like to have here on Star Wars Reactions as we go through our discussions. It is like just being at a table with us, isn't it?
You don't know what you're going to get.
Yep. Life is like a box of chocolates. Gosh, I just went Forrest Gump on us now. Keep this up. We'll never talk this episode.
No.
Reactions is like a box of chocolates. You never know what Aaron's going to say.
Jeez.
Carabast. But just, I will say just now, David, but I just got a brilliant idea for my next Photoshop edit.
Oh my gosh. Well, good. Like I said, I do enjoy those. Yes.
All right. Back on topic. Andor, the Aldhani Arc. Oh my lord. Fabulous series. So let's go ahead and jump into our talking points here. And we open up the arc, really with back on is it Fairnex, as Cassian and Lutheran are escaping on board Lutheran's ship. It's Luthen, not Lutheran. Carabast, Luthen's ship. And it jumps into hyperspace, and we have their conversation as they're making the escape. And we begin to see the Luthen try to draw Cassian into the rebellion. And Cassian just really doesn't care. And but we get to see Luthen start working on him and moving him into position to start this hero's journey that we see so much in Star Wars and in a lot of great fictional stories. What did you think about this whole interaction here at the beginning with Luthen as they're on the ship and they're talking about the next mission and about about paying Cassian to do this job for them? I mean, 200,000 credits, which is obviously a lot of money at that time, but probably just not even a 0.5% of probably what they were stealing in the long run. But how did you feel about the discussion between them, David?
Well, it does. It feels like, right, the hero's journey, right? It's that resistance, right? Andor's resistant to crossing that threshold, but he ultimately does do the job, because he's being paid. And I don't really think that we really have the beginning of the hero's journey yet. It's starting to work on. Luthen is. I don't see Luthen as Obi-Wan encouraging Luke or anything like that. But it is a fascinating conversation. It's that classic thing. Do you join something bigger than you? Do you do this for yourself? But it's, I don't know. I've heard a number of people talking about it. The way that it's written, the dialogue, it just pulls you in. Stellan Skarsgård and Diego, are just incredible. I mean, I'm glued to it. Again, we talked about the action versus, say, exposition, right? George Lucas has talked about that. How much do you have? How much do you not have? But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying these conversations, this one and others to follow, that we'll talk about in the fifth and sixth episode. But very, very engaging, and of course we are learning more, about Cassian's history too.
Yeah, absolutely we are, and it's fun to see that. And we talk about you said something talking about the getting him involved in the rebellion, and I think I said earlier he doesn't really care to get involved, but he's doing it for the money. And Luthen, you mentioned Luthen explaining to him why the rebellion, but there was a scene in one of the later episodes, I want to say it's episode 5, The Axe Forgets, where they're all talking where Cassian's talking with the other rebels, and Vel is like, makes a statement that the rebellion means something different for everybody. And then we find out that Skeen is there because, well, supposedly we end up finding out it's a lie later, but he's there because the Empire killed his brother, or led to the death of his brother by destroying his farm, and then his brother took his own life. Or we have Nemec, who is just solely sold on the hope of freedom, So it means something different to everybody. And it seems to me that Luthen is sending Cassian on a journey to find what the rebellion can be for him.
Yeah, I agree.
And I really like that, because because by the time we see him in Rogue One, he is sold out. It is all or nothing for the rebellion. So we're trying. It's fun to see him make that journey to becoming sold out, the sold out operative we see there. So
Yeah.
well, then we take a journey that was probably some of my favorite. Is we journey to Coruscant, and we enter the halls of the ISB.
Yeah.
The Imperial Security Bureau. I was so excited when that popped up on the screen, and the Imperial building, and then the it's identified it as Imperial Security Bureau headquarters. I lost my mind. I was like, this is awesome. Because, I go straight back to what? I go back to Rebels.
Right.
And everybody's favorite Agent Callus, who was a part of the ISB. So it's got me hoping.
Yeah.
But we meet a couple of interesting people here at the ISB. We of course meet the character they're kind of focusing most on in the ISB, which is Deidre Mero. We meet another ISB agent, Blevin, and of course the Major, who of course is in charge. And I'm blanking on his name right now. Wow, why can I not think of his
I
name?
think it's Patragaz, if I'm saying it properly.
It sounds right, but my
Yeah.
mind is just blanking. Can't believe I didn't write that down.
I know. I should have. I do love that character. I love the actor.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic actor. Let me see if I can find. It's going to bother me now if I don't find his name. Forget it. Anyway, I know how to
I think it is. I can look it up on my end here. Let me do it while.
See who can find it faster.
StarWars.com. Let me go to. Let me go to this episode guide. And we get this.
10-11.
There's Deidre Mero. Where is our guy? Star Path. Everyone loves this. Wow, I just went through episode 4 here, and they don't list him. They don't show him. It's funny, they show Mero and what's her face?
Okay. That is who I thought it was.
What's that?
Not that it's talking about. It's not a part of this arc.
All right.
Where are you?
This is horrible, man.
I know. This is killing me.
Yeah. I should be able to find this. Sure.
Killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
No, I don't have. I guess go to IMDb, but
That's where I'm at. Major Partagaz. There it is. Played by Anton Lesser.
Nice.
Major Partagaz. Partagaz. Forgive us for that brief distraction while we figured that out.
No.
But yeah, Partagaz is the major we see in charge of ISB at that point. well, at least of this division of ISB. And you know, I love what we're seeing. We got this round table meeting room, and every person is responsible for a certain number of sectors, and the only person that's really seeing the whole picture, ironically, is probably the newest operative they have, is that Deidre, uh, is Deidre, as they call her through this episode, and she's actually seeing everything from she's seeing a bigger picture of everything, and it all is going back to that piece of technology that brought Luthen and Andor together. And she is actually seeing this whole picture that, it's just not a random piece stolen here, piece stolen there, but she's seeing the grand picture of these are organized thefts of equipment from different sectors that are all being part of a grander rebellion that's being organized, while everyone else is, being territorial. This is my sector, you leave my sector alone. And it's very, it's very businesslike,
Yes.
to say the least. And I'm loving seeing that, and I love the fact that she's actually seeing the whole picture and nobody is believing it. And which made it real awesome. And we actually see Marrow and Blevin butting heads because of this, and they get drug in front of Pendergast. So, what are your thoughts on finally seeing ISB at work, my friend?
Well, I love it because you and I were just talking about Rebels, and not only seeing Callus, but not seeing, but thinking about Callus. But I also thought about, um, I guess, what's that?
Colonel Yularen.
Well, yes, that's, I'm thinking about him as well. Seeing him in Rebels, and so, well, I don't know. It's interesting. I've been thinking about this, Aaron. I don't know what it is, but I think it feels like the Gilroys have made a decision. I don't know. It's like, I feel like, every show has a certain budget limit, but I feel like between where they filmed a lot of the stuff for Aldhani, they didn't use money there, right? Special effects money, except to throw a TIE fighter in there, etc. But then I feel like they spend the money here showing you the ISB headquarters, like, you were just saying, and I'm like, they make it look really good. It's the same thing with the eye. I don't know what it is. They and you see Andor flying through that, and the TIE fighters. I just feel like they've really picked good spots to spend the money. There's parts of Obi-Wan where you can tell, okay, they didn't spend as much money there. They spent it here, they spent it there. And I guess I'm bringing this up because I love seeing the outside of the ISB, seeing the inside. And I just think the way that Tony Gilroy and Dan Gilroy have written this, the backstabbing and fighting, how they started it with Deidre Miro and with Blevin, is just delicious. It's just great. It gets better each episode. And their commanding officer, I just, oh, he is such an Imperial. He's just great. So they're just doing it right, man. It's just, it's so well done.
It is extremely well done, and I love the ISB. I love seeing the internal workings of the ISB. You're seeing, everybody thinks of government, they think of red tape. We're seeing Imperial red tape in action. And it's just incredible to see these stories as they go on. And it's just been a lot. It's the ISB is just incredible anyway, because you got agents like Callus in there. So, It gives me hope of what we might see in the future. Maybe get a few surprise walkthroughs,
Yeah.
show up somewhere. Even though I know this current time frame overlaps Rebel, so he's somewhere on Lothal, but we could see him in a hologram.
That's right. They could check in. Yep.
Yep. Call out after him. And he say something like, I'm chasing down Jabba the Hutt. We'd all
Yeah.
know what that means.
Yeah. Yeah. With Ezra. Yeah.
Oh Lord. So the majority of these two of this arc, the first two, that's 66% of it, is Andor trying to get comfortable with, and them trying to get comfortable with the rebel group that is going to be pulling off this heist. And we see, of course, some resistance to him being there. We see people upset. They're angry. They're confused. They don't know if they can trust him because, he's being thrown in literally 3 days before they do the theft and pull off the heist. So there's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of worry. Is this guy here to sell us out? Is this guy here to ruin it? What's the deal? So there's a lot of mistrust that has to be worked through, and we see that happening. Through conversations, we see some issues with Skeen as Andor and him clash. Even with Tyron, as they're practicing, Andor gives a suggestion, and we see some clashing there as well. Because of how new he is. And, it's a learning, I don't want to say learning curve, but there's some growing pains in this group as they get to know each other. What are your thoughts, especially knowing your background in psychology, as seeing these people thrust into this position, having to try to make it work out, and just how things are struggle. It's a struggle for them. What are your thoughts on their struggle of getting along?
Well, I'll give you one word: paranoia, and rightfully so. Everyone, their life is on the line. And just like you, Aaron, I went back and rewatched, 4, 5, and 6 here for us to record tonight, so it's fresh in my mind. You and I watched them when they came out, and again, just getting them in our heads. So, when you see Vel struggle with Luthen and said, we've been, eating roots and sleeping on rocks for 5 months, and now you're bringing this guy in at the last minute. This is really dicey, and this is going to be hard to sell this to the team. But they're all rightfully anxious. They don't know who this is, and it doesn't seem like actually we do know that the others don't know Luthen. It's only Vel talks to him, and of course when Vel is walking back with Cassian, she says, we don't talk about him. And so I think she's the only one who has met him and knows him. It feels like, so that being the case, I get it. Even if you had the scenario where Andor didn't join this team, they know they're going into an incredibly dangerous situation, and so anxiety is going to be high, but it's jacked up even more. And again, the way that Gilroy's, both of them, write this stuff, it just creates so much tension. It's so well done, and everyone's looking over their shoulder. And like I said, rightfully so.
Oh, absolutely. And the one thing I was thinking about too, especially with the relationship between Luthen and Vel compared to the rest of the team, not knowing Luthen even exists, it kind of to me shadows the Fulcrum in the Fulcrum Hera relationship in Rebels. The rest of the team had no clue who Fulcrum was. They just knew she had a source, and Hera was the only one that talked to Fulcrum and back and forth. So it to me resembled that, because Val's getting her information from Luthen. She's getting the financing from Luthen and being sent on the mission by Luthen, but nobody knows who Luthen is. So
Right.
it gives me that very, very much that fulcrum type feel to it. I wouldn't be surprised if because of this we find out Lutheran's one of the first fulcrum agents.
Yeah, I really like how
At some point.
I didn't think about that, but I like that comparison. I like that. I like that a lot.
So it is a unique relationship because Val is in the position where she trusts Luthen, but yet she's earned the trust of everybody else, and she's kind of put in. If anybody's here, she's the one put between a rock and a hard place. Because not only does she have to get Andor trained up, she also has to keep the trust of the people she's been working with all these months building up to this event. So she's kind of she's left between to train, trying to continue to pull this off and keep everybody together. And
Yeah.
really, she does a tremendous job at doing that.
Yeah. No, well said. She's between a rock and a hard place. She is in a bad spot, but boy, she does her best to hold it all together. And I can see why Luthen, has her in that spot. She does a great job.
Well, you know who else is in a bad spot?
Who's that?
Mon Mothma.
Oh gosh, paranoia there too, buddy. Paranoia on her. She, and rightfully so for her.
Yeah. So we do see Mon Mothma in these episodes. We actually get to meet her husband and everything as well. Perrin, who she ends up getting a gift for when she meets with Luthen on Coruscant, because part of Luthen's cover is he is a artifact dealer on Coruscant. He sells historical artifacts from all over the galaxy. And he returns to Coruscant after dropping Andor off on Aldhani, returns to his store and and ends up meeting with Mon Mothma, who, of course, is having issues of her own because she's trying to help and finance this rebellion that Luthen is involved in and everything. But, she's now under major scrutiny because of, speeches she's given and stances she's made. And she's like, there's new people everywhere I go now. All the tellers at the bank have been replaced. They gave me a new driver, which is probably ISB. It's just, she's like, I just can't get access to my money anymore, our family fortune. I used to be able to slide it around here and there and it'd be good. But and Luthen's pretty much telling her, you got to make a decision. Are you going to just sit back and take it and go with the rebellion, go with the Empire? Or are you actually going to buckle down and put it all on the line? And you see her having to walk that fine line between the Empire and the rebellion, trying to serve and make changes diplomatically, like she always wanted to, as we saw in Rebels, we saw during the Clone Wars, the character wanting to handle things diplomatically versus knowing what she needs to do and end up becoming one of the main members of the rebellion. And she's doing this literally all underneath the noses of the other senators, but more importantly, she's trying to do this under the nose of her husband and under the nose of her daughter. She's got a husband and daughter. That's something I never knew till this series.
No, never knew this. No.
So it was husband was Perrin and the daughter was Lita.
Yep.
Lita. And so she wants to protect her family, but she also wants to, do what's right. So she's definitely got probably the biggest predicament that in the episode of anybody in the series so far. Cassian's on the run. He was running because he murdered the the corporate security guards. He was now dealing with this rebel cell, but he is, he can just cut and run at any point and walk away and be fine. Whereas she has a husband, she's got her husband, she's got her daughter, she's got a lot more on the line, so she can't just up and take off. So it makes her journey a little bit more, in my opinion, a little bit more perilous than Andor's in this series. What do you think?
Oh gosh. Well, and I love Genevieve O'Reilly. I love this actress.
Oh, she's
And
phenomenal.
oh my gosh, I don't know. I just find her not only just, gosh, a great actor, but she's so elegant. And you watch these scenes, and of course, we're recording this on October 20th, so the 7th episode's come out. And again, we'll talk about that next time. But again, it continues just this elegance. The way they have her dressed is beautiful. She's gorgeous, and again, this actress helps to convey in her conversations with Luthen, with her husband and daughter, just the stress that she's under. But it's like she does it in such an elegant way. But I agree with you. She's got more on the line. Cassian does not have a spouse. He does not have a child to worry about here. So, yeah, she can't just cut and run right now. And so that's an interesting, addition, at least in our minds, to Mon Mothma's life. Obviously we didn't know this in 1983 when we see Mon Mothma, as the leader of the Rebel Alliance, had no clue that she had a husband and a daughter. But I think those additions they make it more and more tension is what I think about in these episodes. But just obviously I'm interested in Andor. I mentioned it in my initial remarks, learning more about these characters, and Mon Mothma is one of them. I love the character, and I love where she ends up.
Oh, absolutely. It's enjoyable to see this character who is literally on screen for what? Not even 5 minutes in Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, and something, I don't know that I thought about this, Aaron, back in 1983 when I watched it, the opening night in May of 83, is that because of like what you said, I didn't think about, wait a minute, this, here's George Lucas putting a woman, right, as the leader of the Rebel Alliance. I'm like, holy crap, that's like, like having Leia as, a kick butt equal to Han and Luke in 77 and 80. And George is before his time, buddy.
Oh, absolutely he was. He always has been, which is what made this makes Star Wars so much fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely the Mon Mothma character is. I'm enjoying seeing her journey as well, because it's not just Cassian's journey. We're seeing her journey as well, and we know we saw her in Clone Wars, we saw her Return of the Jedi. And of course, you've seen her in Rebels too, in the one episode where she finally makes the speech and brings the Alliance together.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of growth to see in her, where she's hesitant, she's scared, but eventually we're seeing this journey that as she grows stronger and steps out of her shell, essentially. And it's so much fun. It is so much fun. So we got a lot more to talk about still, and we want to keep going. So, but before we do, we're going to take a quick break, drink some water, and we will be right back to discuss more of Andor. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are talking the Aldhani Arc from Andor, episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Andor. And of course, we got we can't just sit here and not talk about the events of the sixth episode in this arc, which of course is the actual heist, what episode 4 and 5 built up to, the actual heist of the payroll. And this episode was the icing on the cake. It was so much fun. It was so intense. It was literally edge of your seat. At least it was for me. Really, really loved it. It was, I mean, so intense. The infiltration, seeing them pull off everything they'd been planning, and them to come together and pull this off, and just the arrogance of the Empire, which allowed it to happen. It's just mind blowing, and let's just talk about this heist. It starts, of course, with the locals showing up at their sacred, what's left of their sacred temple right outside the base to celebrate the Eye of Aldhani.
Yeah.
On that special day, and it actually ends up how they end up infiltrating the base from there. They end up going inside the base and dressed up as troopers. And as soon as they get in, they're escorting, of course, the colonel back to the base, the colonel and the visiting inspector. And as they get inside, of course, the plan goes into action at that point, where they begin taking prisoners, and the fight begins to get to the vault and load everything up. And we have Cassian with Skeen and Lemek and
Tamarin.
I was like, there's one more. I can't think his name. Tamarin. They're the ones dressed up as Imperials doing the infiltrating, while Val and Cinta are jamming communications so that the Imperial Air Base is hopefully somewhat delayed in their response at that point, so nobody can call it in per se.
Right.
So they split up and they're doing their thing, and they get inside the base, and of course the plan is they had a minimal team inside the base because everybody was outside wanting to watch the Eye, which only happens every 3.5 years. So the majority of the Imperial forces were outside by order of Lieutenant
Gorn. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I keep struggling with that name, and here's why. And I'm going to say, go off on this tangent for a little bit. Lieutenant Gorn. I'm sorry, Gorn is the lizard creature from Star Trek.
Yeah. Well,
so
yeah.
That's why I keep wanting to say Gorn. I'm like, no, that's Star Trek. It's throwing me off.
Well, there's a lot of new names, and there, planet names: Aldhani, Tamarin, Nemec, Cinta, Vel. There's a lot of names here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even I heard Tony Gilroy, I think it was on StarWars.com, he was saying that I think he has upwards of like 190 speaking parts in this thing, or roles. I mean, it's a lot. When you look at the end in the credits, the number of characters, it's a lot. It really is. And so to keep track of it, and Ferrix, right, that planet, I've heard a lot of podcasts get a lot of these names wrong, and me as well.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, like even you and I just trying to, how do we properly say Blevin and Miro's supervisor, Patragaz? I mean, it's just it's easy to mess all this up. And the Aldhani, they're called Donnies, right? They call them Donnies. So it's like just a whole education, from Tony Gilroy and his brother Dan Gilroy, in terms of world building. And there's all these worlds and all these names. And so, you and I are Trying to do our best with these names, but yeah, Lieutenant Gorn is critical. Of course, we get his backstory on why he is helping, and it's brilliant when he's in there, and as the heist is before the heist goes, he, the guys inside there by the Imperial payroll, you can see it in there in the vault. They're like, sir, it'd be really tough for the guys to be down here, and miss that. And of course, as he's walking away, Lieutenant Gorns kind of smiles. He's like, well, yeah, it's great. All you guys want to be up top? Yeah, the more the merrier. And no, Gorn is critical. And I love that guy too. I love that actor. I love the role. You'd think Tony Gilroy, I wonder how he did so well cleaning up Rogue One and making it probably, arguably, what people would say is the best, Disney Star Wars movie that's been made since they took over. Well, it's 10 years ago this month, right?
Yeah.
October of 2012. So
Yeah.
Tony Gilroy, he's no slouch, man.
No, he's not. And it's been, he's doing a fabulous job in this series. Now, we see, of course, as they're preparing to enter the base, the colonel comes out and does their ceremony with the Donnies.
Mm-hmm.
And this, to me, was probably one of the funniest scenes for me, because they do the goat skin exchange and everything, which the Major explains to the visiting Imperial engineer that this is just something they do, and it supposedly gives them rental agreements for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
And he's kind of rolling his eyes as he says it. But I love the fact that after the colonel walks off to head back to the building with our rebels following them in disguise, the head of the Donnies takes the goat pelt that he had just received in the ceremony, walks over to the fire, and he just tosses it in there.
Yes.
So here's what I think about your stuff.
Exactly.
Here, that's how I took it. Honestly, I took it as he was just, yeah, okay, whatever, burn it because it's garbage and you really don't care anyway. But let me get your opinion on this, because somebody else mentioned it to me and it got me thinking. That's how I took it, was him just kind of insulting the Imperials by throwing it in the fire. But somebody else mentioned to me that it could be a part of their traditional ceremony, that the rent they give, they throw in the fire and it burns up to their, basically as an offering to whatever they believe in. And that's never really made clear in this, because we never know what they're saying when it happens.
Yeah.
But I wanted to throw that out there to just get people's brains moving, because I would be interested to find out.
Yeah, I think it is what you said it is. I don't think that I think he's
Overanalyzing.
No, I think you were correct on the first part, meaning he is completely disgusted with the Imperials. You see it in the things he says. You even see Lieutenant Gorn have to change something he said. Yeah. And you get the hint that Donnie leader speaks English, because he immediately looks at Lieutenant Gorn. Right. Now, wait, I didn't say that in my native language. And and I think, again, to piggyback off what you said, he takes that pelt and he's telling those guys to move. It's not like it's ceremonial. They part ways and he goes and lays it on there. He throws the thing right on the fire.
Yeah.
So I think it's me, in my humble opinion, I think it's more what you said. Just showing, here's what I think about you. Here's what I think about you being in our sacred land, and you disgust me, and your pelt means nothing to me and my people.
Absolutely, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why we bring stuff like that up. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So, but yeah, it was fun to see that even the people there that have no choice but to submit still don't want to submit. Still have very very low opinions of their occupiers.
Yeah.
So, well, we get into the building, or into the dam where the vault is, and of course, we end up getting a whole bunch of people taken captive. The commandant, the colonel, the wife, and the son of the commandant's all there, and everybody's kind of taken captive by the Imperial, or by our rebels. Cinta's left to guard them while everybody else heads down to the vault, where the guards are just kind of hanging out and not expecting anything to going on. And of course, they break into the vault, take them captive. And I thought it was very unique that they basically made the people that they captured load the money.
Oh yeah, and you knew that was going to lead to problems. Can you keep track of all of these guys? And
Exactly.
yeah.
Can you keep track of them? How can you
Oh,
trust them? And then of course you have things go awry when, of course, Gorn gets down there and he's shouting out orders, trying to get them to keep moving. And that's, of course, when they realize Gorn has betrayed them. And the commandant basically is like, I can't believe you. You're ruined. You're a traitor, blah, blah, blah. And he keeps them working. And then, of course, the communications officer that we see earlier in the episode, it literally has a position up on the dam, ends up inside the vault because he realizes communications are down and that the vault alarm is going off. So he gets a couple troopers and they head down, and that's when literally the crap hits the fan, per se.
Oh.
Yeah, and the gunfight starts.
Right, Gorn is saying you shouldn't be down here. This is a secret mission. Commandant say it, and then he keels over with a heart attack, and it's on.
It is on like Donkey Kong. Blaster fire everywhere. People are being blasted. We see Tamara go down, hit, and it just is. People are falling left and right, and the blasters are going. They got a good chunk of money loaded up, but not. I don't think not everything that they were wanting. Meanwhile, they are trying to make their escape, and what was unique about the escape that they had planned, Cassian was going to fly this box freighter, which was attached to a pole.
A track.
A track. And he was going to launch it, but what was going to be unique was Nemec actually had this course plotted out through the eye so they could escape.
Yes.
And of course, that doesn't even go right, because as they're taking off, Nemec gets pinned between two crates of the money.
Yes.
And basically gets crushed.
Oh.
So while Cassian is trying to fly them through the storm, the Skeen and Vel are getting him unpinned and trying to get him to the bridge to the cockpit so he can give instructions, and he is like literally laying there dying, shouting out coordinates and what to do and where to go. And it is a very intense edge of your seat moment at this time, and then of course you have TIE fighters from the airbase showing up, which I'm sorry, the launching of the TIE fighters from that airbase, probably one of the most fantastic scenes in next to the eye that from this set series.
Oh, it's beautiful from El Kenzie Air Base. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely gorgeous. You see, not only do you see the TIE fighters just hanging there. I mean, it's literally a mock-up of the hangar bays we saw in Rebels at Sky Striker Academy.
Yes.
And literally the ramp going, the walkway going above them, and then a little ramp and drop in with the ladder. The lid closes and they just drop down and take off. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. Absolutely love it. And of course you got TIE fighters trying to chase this box freighter, as I think Cassian called it, and it basically is no match for the TIE fighters. TIE fighters catch up with it in no time. but it's their zigzagging through the storm, that actually saves them, and they do make it out and away. And then they have a decision to make, whether or not to go to the rendezvous or go to this doctor to try to save Nemec.
Yeah.
And of course, decisions made to go to the doctor, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But let's talk about the escape, because we see not only, like I said, we got probably the two best graphic scene. Not graphic scenes makes it sound like it's got a lot of stuff in there that shouldn't be, but the most visually stunning scenes.
Yes.
In this, from the airbase, then of course the eye of the Aldhani, the actual storm itself. Both are just gorgeously stunning visually, and both of those things coming together in one scene is just gorgeous. What were your thoughts on their escape as they were trying to fly away into the sunset?
Gosh, well, like we said, I mean, I sound like a broken record, but the ability of Tony Gilroy and Dan Gilroy, and of course the director here, I think Susanna White, to build tension. I mean, holy mackerel! This is like, the type of, like you hear Cassian talking about this type of Rono freighter, and you're really going to do this, and then you're like, really, can this thing even get out of there? And then they're trying to get up through the eye, and you realize that Nemec is guiding them with this old Polaroid camera, right? That's been modified for the show, and he is almost dying. And again, just building all this tension. And they don't make it through that eye without him. I mean, if he's crushed and killed, they're dead, and we don't see Cassian in Rogue One. So, it's this constant escalation of tension, and the way they do it is just brilliant. And like you said, they set all of this tension within this just gorgeous visual, like you said, visually stunning setting. And I think you said, chef's kiss. It's just incredible what they did, and to get them out of that. Side note, I don't take credit for this. I think it was on Twitter, and I heard another podcast talking about it, that when you hear Nemec say climb, that you hear K2SO tell Cassian and Jin to do that, to get star plans, climb, and so nice little touch there. I don't take credit for that. I give credit to whoever put that together, but again, incredible escape.
It really was incredible, and I like that connection. Good job.
Well,
So,
I'm absolutely stealing it, and I admit it, but I think it's so cool.
so very cool, very cool. So we end up making the escape. We end up on the planet with the Dr.
Quad Paw.
Yes, Quad Paw.
Mm-hmm.
When it first showed, I got to admit, when we first see Quad Paw working away, before we see all four hands, I have to admit, I thought I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're related to, because with the way the eyes and the head and the glasses up there, I was thinking Maz.
Yeah. Well, that, and I've heard other people say like Ochi Bestoon. Those,
I can see that too.
Yeah.
And please see that too. Just got a couple extra arms in that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I guess the multiple arms would make for a good medical doctor, huh?
Oh gosh, yes. Very unique looking guy. But yeah, what a name too. Saw it in the credits, so that's why I know it's his name, Quad Paw. I wouldn't know. So.
Yeah. And unfortunately, of course, Quad Paw is working trying to save Nemec, and unfortunately, he is not successful in that endeavor. and he perishes.
Yeah.
While Quadpaw is working, Cassian and Skeen are sitting outside waiting, and Skeen reveals basically his plans. He basically tries to convince Cassian that they need to just go ahead and take the ship with all the money in it and leave everybody else, and then they can split the 80 million credits they just stole and go their own way. And as they're discussing it, apparently Cassian just didn't want anything to do with it, so Cassian does what Cassian does. He shoots him.
Yeah.
Shoots him dead.
Yeah.
And goes into the hospital where Quadpaw's working, and Quadpaw just covered him up, Nemec up, because he couldn't do anymore. And Cassian comes busting in with his blaster still in hand, and of course all four of Quadpaw's arms go up, which I thought was pretty humorous in and of itself. But that's of course when they find out. Cassian tells Val what Skeen had just attempted, and that he didn't go through with it. He just wanted his portion and wanted to be done. And of course, that's where we end.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it for the arc.
Well,
what are your thoughts on the ending, especially knowing Cassian's life? How Cassian's life ends. He ends up dead with his team on Scarif.
Yeah.
And now to be a part of knowing that he was a part of this mission where everybody's dead except for him and Vel. Well, and Cinta, of course, is on Aldhani still, but
right.
She's kind of out of the picture at that point. What are your thoughts on again Cassian being a part of this mission that basically ended up a bloodbath?
Well, no doubt, it did supply an incredible amount of money to Luthen and the rebellion. Because he ends up only taking the 30,000 credits, his part. He didn't say, I want 40 million, Val, and you get the other 40. But what it shows here, buddy, at the end here, the conversation with Skeen is you realize that Skeen has no moral compass, but Cassian starts with, because he asked him, what about your brother? Oh, I don't have a brother. And then, so where does that leave me? So, and, you hear Skeen say, well, 40 million credits would help me to forget about you. But I think what you see in Andor's face is, I have no guarantee that if I fly this freighter with the credits, away from this planet, there's no reason for me to think you don't put a blaster bolt in the back of my head or body and take 80 million instead of 40 million. Yep. Right. And he knows that, there's no, the only reason, you sat there and said, oh, wow, he wants to go and help, Nemec. No, he wanted to have Nemec and have Vel separate. He wanted to be able to talk to Cassian and try to convince him to fly away. And so he narrows it down even more. It wasn't that he really cared about Nemec. Yeah. He just wanted to divide and conquer. Yeah. So no, it's I think we're just starting to see the beginning of a moral compass there, a little bit in Cassian.
Yeah, exactly. Not so very good. So, well, like I said, that wraps up the arc there. Was there anything else you wanted to hit on before we went into our final thoughts?
No, I think we've done pretty good. We've covered quite a bit.
Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our final thoughts. Of course, I gotta say, for my final thoughts, I loved this arc, especially that last episode. It was the whole arc itself was just spectacular. It wasn't just Cassian growth at that point. It was growth of that rebel cell, having to work through the acceptance of Andor joining it for this heist, which was just so incredibly and visually stunning in the 6th episode. So I loved it. If as of right now, where we're at, this will probably be an arc I'll go back and watch again and again and again, because it's so good. You can watch this arc and not watch the previous arc and know what's going on. So it's a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm happy they did it. It was a lot of fun. Some of my favorite movies are Ocean's 11 and The Italian Job. I love The Italian Job. And this just fits right in with those, with this heist episode. It fits right in with that genre, and I loved it. So how about you, my friend? What are your final thoughts on the Aldhani Arc?
Well, mine are very similar to yours. In fact, you got me thinking about something there. I hadn't thought about to put in my final thoughts, but when you said you're 100% correct. You could jump in at 4 and see him on the ship with Luthen and being taken to Aldhani and be, oh, okay, yeah, here's Cassian. He got in with this Luthen guy and he's starting a mission. And you wouldn't have his backstory as a kid in 1, 2, and 3. But you could absolutely watch 4, 5, and 6 here without the first 3. Absolutely. Good point, buddy. With the first arc, the third episode of the first arc was great. This same here, the 6th episode, the heist was just brilliantly done. The tension was built. I was nervous throughout, on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I knew Andor would be fine, but I didn't know about anybody else. And holy mackerel, I was surprised that so many of these people in the crew got cleared out, to the point you just have Vel and Cassian, right? Well, forgive me, and Cinta, but she's on the planet. But that's it. I mean, I was really surprised. That was very refreshing, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. The tension, the build up through 4, 5, 6 was excellent. And like you said, there's just certain stuff I wouldn't rewatch. Parts of Book of Boba Fett or even some Mandalorian episodes. But yeah, I would. I did. You and I just both did it. We rewatched 4, 5, and 6, and I picked up on all kinds of little details and just loved it again.
Oh, absolutely. Same here. That's why I love doing this show, and even our previous shows, Resistance Reactions, Rebels Reactions, because in order to do it, we rewatch the episodes so many times before we record that because we're watching them so many times, we pick up on so much stuff that you don't just catch during your first watch, and that's why I love doing this. So, well, good job. So, of course, as you know, everybody, we grade our episodes just like if you were getting a grade in school. Of course, we use the same grading scale: A, B, C, D, or F. So let's go ahead and grade it. David, kick us off. How did you grade this arc, sir?
Yeah, putting all 3 together, an A. I did a B+ for the first arc. This is, for me, clearly better than the first 3 eps, right? So an A it is, strong A.
Very good, very good. I'm actually agreeing with you 100% on this. This was an easy A for me. I thoroughly enjoyed the arc. It was a lot of fun. It had a lot of different characters in it that had to do some growing. It was visually stunning. It was exciting. It was just all around awesome. And we got to see a lot of Coruscant. We got to see Mon Mothma meet her family, and it just made it even more incredible seeing her having to deal with it as well. So, yep, definitely an A for both of us. So let us know what you think of the episode. How would you grade it? You can, of course, hit us up at any time on our Twitter at SW Reactions Pod, or of course Instagram SW Reactions as well. So let us know what you think, and we'll love maybe even share your thoughts on the next episode. David, do you have a psychology corner for us this week?
I do, buddy. Last week had one, and this week I have one as well. And so let me dive into it, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So again, let's continue to make our listeners good psychologists. In our last podcast last week, I shared some statistics about, the increase in depression and anxiety over the past few years, particularly with COVID. Tonight, I wanted to share some additional stats on the increase in anxiety, okay, specifically in children and teens. I just wanted to give people a feel for this. Okay, here we go. In 2012, so we're talking 10 years ago, about 11.6% of children were experiencing anxiety. And that was a 20% increase from 2007, okay, just within 5 years there. So during the COVID pandemic, the 2022 numbers nearly doubled to 20.5% of youth worldwide struggling with anxiety. And that's from the October, this month, brand spanking new, my monitor on psychology. So you're seeing these, staggering increases from 2012 to 2022, nearly doubling the rates of anxiety worldwide. I thought it was interesting in the article, and I wanted to share this with some of the listeners, that they talked about what, some of the contributors were to this increased anxiety. And we know that some of it is, COVID-related stressors, including social isolation, right? We know that. What else do I have here? Just scrolling here a little bit too quickly. Oh yeah, social isolation, a lot of missed milestones, and increased family tension, right? And it's varied from state to state, but it's been a lot of stress on people. It already was in 2019. Now, add to that, here's some additional stuff that, of course, Aaron has seen and heard. I've seen and heard it. We've had this increase in school shootings. We've seen that. The most recent one being back in May, that Uvalde down in Texas, that shooting, political unrest, and this war in Ukraine that doesn't end. And even back in the spring when Aaron and I were covering, I think, Book of Boba Fett, I was talking about psychopathy, sociopathy, right? And Putin is clearly that. And he brings up the word nuclear in his conversations back in February, almost like a week or 2 weeks after he invaded Ukraine. He starts using the N-word, nuclear, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about, dude?" So staggering amounts of stress for people, and that being the case around the world. And so in essence, to summarize, it's no wonder, that anxiety has gone up in children, adolescents, and us adults. Now, I wanted to mention this, and I've talked about this a bit in previous Psychology Corners. All of this is occurring while we have, staggering, increases in mental health. There's a lack of mental health services across our country. I've mentioned this before, but let me mention it again. I mentioned it to a client today. That if you look at every county, if you see the United States, and have you ever seen the map where you see not the states, but like literally the counties, not voting districts, but the county, where you were born, you can take a look and all that. 4% of counties in our country have the proper mental health services, and particularly psychiatric services. So 96% of our counties in our country don't have the needed mental health services, okay? So the mental health system is one of many broken systems in our country, including our medical system, our educational system, and our political system. And so I kind of mention all this to say that the Psychology Corner has been a way for me to share some needed information and treatments for free. All right, now I'm going to do my disclaimer again. A podcast or article is not the same as meeting with a mental health professional. Okay, just know that. That's my disclaimer. I'm not doing therapy with you over a podcast episode or several podcast episodes. But, it can be helpful in the meantime, right? So here are some interventions adults, children, and adolescents can do to help decrease anxiety. Now, in previous episodes, I have talked about cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and so on and so forth. But what I'm going to do is just kind of mention two of the main components of cognitive behavioral therapy for anxiety disorders. And one major aspect is basically challenging unrealistic or exaggerated anxious thoughts. Okay. This is Socratic reasoning. This is what Dr. Aaron Beck developed across his career at the University of Pennsylvania. His daughter now runs that psychology clinic in that department there, and she continues her dad's work with CBT, challenging unrealistic or exaggerated anxious thoughts, of course, depressed thoughts as well. Now, the other main component of CBT for anxiety is exposure and response prevention. Now, what I want to do, again, we've run a little bit long here. I want to give the proper time and cover in more detail each of these techniques to address anxiety versus just skimming over them right now. So in the next two episodes, Aaron and I, will cover some more Star Wars content. And next one, I'll talk about, just real simple ways to challenge unrealistic and exaggerated thoughts. I'll give some examples of those and how you can challenge those. And in the episode after that, I'll talk about exposure and response prevention. So we'll give them the proper time and hopefully help our listeners become even better psychologists. All right, buddy?
Very good. Very good. Love it. And of course, if somebody has questions for you about the Psychology Corner, or of course about Star Wars in general, how could they go about reaching out to you to talk about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, the main place would be Twitter. You and I are pretty consistent on that. That's, for me, it's at David_Modders, Modders. The other place is Instagram, but really Twitter is the best place to do it. I was going to say email, but you and I don't do those anymore. So yes, Twitter or Instagram, either place, and be more than happy to answer some questions.
Very good. Very good. And of course, if you want to talk Star Wars with me, best place to do that is Twitter. Of course, at TA Harris 121079 is the best place there. So, of course, David, you know what time it is?
Ruh-roh.
Ruh-roh. It is Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week time. And I got a good one for you this week, my friend.
All right, lay it on me.
All right, here we go. We're going back to the Clone Wars for this one, my friend. What was General Grievous's favorite band?
Oh my gosh. What was General Grievous's favorite band?
Weezer.
Oh, that's actually good. That is good.
You realize I'm going to listen to Weezer the rest of the night tonight while we edit the show.
That's a good one, actually, buddy.
Oh, Weezer.
That
Weezer,
was
Weezer.
good. That was good.
Ooh, I look just like Buddy Holly. All right. Yeah, I'm going to sing I'm going to listen to Weezer the rest of the night tonight. Oh, Lord. David, my friend, this has been a blast.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great way to end it, buddy.
Oh, it is. It is. This has been fun as always, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Y'all are the greatest. We appreciate each and every one of y'all. We love y'all. We're praying for y'all. Do something nice for somebody this week. Remember all the people in Florida that still need help from the storm. Keep them in your thoughts, prayers. And if you can find a way to help them out. I know they'd appreciate it. So we appreciate each and every one of y'all. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you would like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwarsreactions.com. www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.